Hi everybody, it's me and I'm in the lair, and we're on year 16 of the Radio Well channel. It's been a long time, but that's not here I'm here to tell you about. I'm here to talk to you about the upcoming Kutztown. That's actually going to be happening on Friday, September the 9th, and Saturday, September the 10th at Rangers off of Noble Street in Kutztown. And here's the flyer that's pointing things out to you. As you can see here, Friday, if you're a vendor, the setup starts at 8 a.m. and there's not going to be any early birds, so you have to. That'll give you 2 hours to get your stuff all set up, which is plenty unless you have a big truck, and then maybe you should just have some helpers to help you get it all out there in time or something. For the general public, it's Friday, 10 o'clock in the morning, and that will go on straight to 5 o'clock. Okay, and then there will be an auction in the White Room over at Ranchers, and that'll start promptly at 5:30. And then Saturday, the whole thing starts up again at 8 a.m. and goes to 2 p.m. So hopefully I'll get to see everybody there. I'll be there with my radios and tubes and my usual layout. If most of you already know me and what I do at these events. If you've never done this before, this is your time to do this, because this is just such a nice event. Our host club, the DVHRC, they're people, and I'm a member of DVHRC. I've been a member now for several years. They do an awesome job in getting this set up, and our host Rangers are just a super nice group of people to allow us to do that, and we've been doing it now for well over 20 plus years. So hope to see you there. So let's start out with what I'm here for, period. Besides to tell you about Kutztown, but what I'm here to talk about is if you do come out to Kutztown, you may have some things in your head that you're looking for, and things that maybe a radio. I don't know if you're looking for a project, or if you're not into repairing radios, you're looking for something nice that's done. There's something for every person in price range. Now, of course, me being who I am, and you know that I have a crazy fetish for tube Trans-Oceanic radios. Those are those black stag, or if you were a little more upscale and you had the money to get a leather TO, which I have both actually. I have one leather TO. Then this doesn't work right now. I have to go through it. The selenium rectifier, original selenium, went bye-bye, and I gotta do that. But I'm here to talk to you about the Transistor Trans-Oceanics. I don't see too many YouTube creators talking about them too much. They're actually reasonably priced, but there are some features that are on every one. There's 4 variants, or 4 different types of transistor TOs. And let me explain what each one is. I literally have an example of each one except for the very last one. And it's not that I can't afford one or never had to drive to get one, but I'll explain when we get to that point. And then from that point on, I'll have to show you pictures and what to look for with them as well. So let's get started. This is my almost near mint, like 100% mint. This is probably the nicest Transistor Trans-Oceanic I own. This is the first Royal Transistor or Trans-Oceanic ever made by Zenith. This is the Royal 1000. Let me take it out of the bag. Now, this protective bag, by the way, was an option that you could buy from Zenith. I didn't really look into the research on it, but I think it was something like an extra $15 or $20, and you can buy this cover for your TO. Okay, so here is what the radio looks like from the front. Now, before I continue, let me give you a little history about this radio. They came in 2 different flavors. There was the Royal 1000 and the Royal 1000-1. Now, this is a 1000. The difference between the two is the 1000-1, and the 1001s are kind of rare, but they actually had a jack in the side that you could actually run it on like an AC wall wart. That was a 12-volt DC wall wart, but we'll talk a little more about that when we get to the 3000. This was introduced to the general public in December 1957, right on time for the Christmas gift holiday shopping. So they started in very end of 1957 and ran until 1963. So this actually went for a little while. But there were rumors that kicked around that these things were run still in low production numbers all the way up until 1968. But I have no way of proving that. That's just hearsay and something that I had already heard once, and I found a couple folks mention it on the web. So it's like anything else. So let me open this up so you can see the inside. Oh, there we go. And it opens up here, and you can see. Let me get some better light on there. Maybe you can see that a little better without too much reflection. There you go. And as you can see, I have the radio right now. It's set on the broadcast band. And then your band switch is over here to the right front of the radio. Now, this particular radio has broadcast band, and it's got, band, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shortwave bands. Now, it does not have FM. The FM didn't come out to the Royal 3000s, but we'll get to that in a minute. And it does have a tone control and an on-off volume control here, as well as, let me turn this light out so you can see it better. But it does have a dial light, and there's 2 small bulbs behind the drum that displays the shortwave bands. So you got anything from 13 meter band up until 31 meter band, and then you've got 4 to 9 and 2 to 4, and then, of course, the broadcast band. So, I love this radio, and it's just a very, very attractive radio. It's got some very nice shiny bits. It's got the Zenith logos you can see there on your left, and there's a little bit of a goldish color trim, kind of separating toward the middle of the knobs in the lower part of the radio. And then here, there's some, back this up so you can see a little better. There's logs and charts that I don't want to pull this out because I don't want to wreck it, but of course nothing that's in there now is valid for today. That was probably what came out in 1957 or whenever year that radio was made. And for the shortwave antenna, this and the 3001 had a button on the left side. Let me see if I can back this out a little bit. And then it's got a little red tip that you can pull out. And that antenna will extend to probably about 4 foot long. So it's a very, very long antenna. So one of the things that you'll want to do is that when you're shopping around for one of these, or a 3000-1, is make sure, pull your antenna all the way out. It's not the... There we go. I can just keep pulling it out, pull it full all the way out, make sure it's in one piece. It has this nice little red tip, and there's a little tab on the bottom of this. Let me see if I can get a close up here. I don't know if that's focusing very good. There's actually a little tab on, there it is. That tab has to go on the bottom of this, and that helps to latch this guy. This actually is a button here. Let me back this out a little bit. Sorry about that. So let me back this out a little bit so you can see a little better. On the side of here, you push this guy in, and then the antenna should drop down. So it latches in this way. Once it's latched and in place, you could actually go under here and pick up this handle. This is a very stout, heavy radio. So, and on top is this thing that says wave magnet. Now the 3000 has that as well. That's your broadcast band antenna. But the funny thing is, and I'd have to fish it out, but there is if you remember, with the tube TOs, there used to be an external wave magnet, or at least on the 600 radios, or 500s even, and you can pull that out, and there's a wire that you could snap in place and use that, like if you're on a plane or a train or something like that. They did have an optional, it wasn't standard with the radio like the other radios, but it's an optional antenna that you could plug in lieu of this one that's got the correct plug on. I have one here somewhere, and you could plug it in this, and then it had suction cups array on it, and you could attach that to a window. So most of these were battery only. The 1001s are kind of few and far between, but it did have a provision to operate on AC, and I'll explain that a little more in depth with the 3000. So here's my 1001, and I love this radio. It's just so plain and so cool. It's a very good quality radio for its time. Okay, next, here is my personal Royal 3000 Trans-Oceanic. Now these were made from, I don't remember what month in '63, but they started in sometime in '63, and they ran as late as 1971. And the cool part about this radio is it's the first one that actually has FM. And you can see there's a little moniker in the front of the radio that states that. They weren't shy about showing that. So there it is, FM wideband and an AM. Now it's not FM stereo yet, but it's FM nonetheless, so it's all right. So here's this scoop about this. Now, if you look closely, I'm going to go into the brushed metal. This is one of the things you want to look at when you're buying a radio. I'm going to have to put some, there we go. I'll leave it like that, and I'll put a little bit more light on it. And let me get a pointer to show you that this is far from perfect. Now, I would call this driver quality, but there's some shot on there. And I think I've got a little bit of a dimple. I don't know how well it's coming through. There's a little bit of a dimple here and here, and a small one up here. These are things that happen to these radios. Sometimes if they're stored in maybe in a damp environment or a humid environment, you know, these can get marks on them, and it's almost like if you were buying a classic car and you wanted to look at your floors and your frame and everything, and there's no rust through or anything like that. This is purely aesthetic. It doesn't have any effect on how the radio operates. But that's something I just wanted to bring your attention. Now let me open this up. And it does look kind of strikingly familiar to the 1000. I'll just kind of get in a little closer to get a little bit better shot. There we go. All right, there. So let me just point out the things that are a little bit different on this. Now, just like the Royal 1000, there's a dial light. And right now, wait a minute, let me turn this off so you can see it better. There it goes. There's two bulbs. Oh, this switch is a little bit dirty. But you can see now I have this on AM and it's lighting up the dial. Okay. But this is the first radio, turn this back on, to have FM. You see that? Right in the middle of the dial there? Now how cool is that? So that was probably a real big deal. You know, and these things came out in 1963 and went to 1971. I think in 1963 to have a portable radio with FM was probably a big deal. You know, it's still in FM, and it's kind of broadcast, you know, young in the days of early FM. You know, so I think that's just kind of cool. You have your on-off volume control switch, the bass and treble tone switch, and of course, like the dial I just showed you, and this has AFC on the FM. Now, right now I have it in the off position, but it can be used on this radio. Other than that, this radio is really, really close to the 1000 in the way it looks. This also has a largs and charts door similar to the 1000. And this particular radio is a 3001. I mean, no, this is a 3000. I'm sorry. So if this was a 3001, there would be a hole right here for a 12-volt jack. So this is just a 3000. Let me take that back. I apologize for that. Okay, so here's the side of the radio. I've got the camera about as far back as I could get it without me being in the way here. Let me zoom in on this jack, and you'll see it says 12-volt external power supply. Okay, now I don't have the original Zenith power supply for this one. I've got kind of a handmade thing, and I didn't put that label on here, but this is how I got it. Okay, so this is not the original Zenith plug, and let me show you this is just as I got this radio when I bought it. Someone did this to the cord. Now there's the jack that would go into here to power the radio up, okay? And that's the right jack. Now, someone took this thing and had to do a little service work here. They put some shrink tubing over the wires. Well, there's a reason for that. Now, let me get the pin in front of the camera. I'll point this out to you. Normally, on all these kinds of plugs, the tip, or this tip right here, is positive, and the shank portion here, this long part behind that, is negative. But on these radios, it's the opposite. So the shank in the back is positive, and the tip is negative. All right, so that's an important thing to do. And I suspect that that's why that happened. Someone took the wires and reversed them, and then added this label to let everybody know that was for the TO. So you could probably find an original Zenith wall wart for this, but if you don't, then you just probably need a 12 volt. This particular wall wart, I don't know what it says on there, but it's rated for 100 milliamps. That's probably about right for this. I think I powered this radio up once with this, and it did come on, and radio played, but the radio needs help. So I just wanted to point that out to you. If you see something like that, very rarely you'll find one of these on a 1000, but you'll find them. They're out there. I've seen them. So I just wanted to point that out to you. Also on the back cover, it'll let you know if it's a 1000, or in this case, this is the 3001 that I just showed you. Let me open this up for a second. I forgot if I had a battery box in here or not. Let me see. Okay, there is no battery box. Oh, I remember now. Someone put this in here. I know why this D battery is in here. That's to fire up the pilot light. There is no battery box in this radio. But as you can see, both the 1000 and the 3000, let me get my dial pointer right here, my little pointer. It has all these plug-in transistors. So I'll just take one out so you can see it. Okay, these are the germanium transistors that came with the radio. Okay, some are 3-pin, some are 4-pin, but they're plug-in. So the nice part about that is that you could, if you got one of those cheap Chinese testers like I have, wherever they are, $10, $12 testers, you can check the gain, and it also will tell you if it's a PNP or an NPN. Most of these are PNP anyway. Down here, on the lower part of this, there's 2 transistors here, and I see it's got the letter H on them. I don't know why, but is that all the way? I guess that's all the way in. But these are your output transistors in a push-pull configuration, and this is your audio transformer right here. This is a well-built, really nice radio. So one thing that's important, though, is I'll get a battery box and show it to you. And you want to make sure that if you're looking for either a 1000 or a 3000, you get a good battery box to go with it. Let me get it and show you what that looks like. Okay, now here is a battery box. And by the way, the battery box is the same in both the 1000 or 3000, or if it has the -1 after it. They're all the same. The 7000s, the 2 different 7000s they don't use a battery box. They just go directly in the back of the radio. So I'm going to let me pop some of these batteries out and show you that. Now this is actually a good working box. It's not perfect, but it does work. And the things you want to look for is, because it's a battery operated thing. Now this one is not perfect. This little connection here is a little bit of rust on it, but it actually makes good contact. But what you want to do is find the good battery boxes. If you have a voltometer on you to check it. Now you notice that here there's a space where there's a separate tap on there, and that's for the dial light. The dial lights run off a 1.5 volt, one of the D cells in here. So check to make sure that all the springs and pieces are there and intact, and if you can, If you can ask the owner to make sure that it's powering up. And then there's a 3-prong plug. One's a common or minus. One is the plus 12 volt and the other one is plus 1.5 volt for the dial light. So you could check that with a voltometer and make sure that everything is good. But I've seen these springs broken off. I've seen these tabs broken off. Now this tab's a little loose, but it's just the cardboard that's loose. The tab itself is good and it's a little bit ugly, but it is a working box. So if you see a lot of this stuff, just beware of what you're looking at. I have a second box here. I don't know. I forgot if this one was a good one or not. So it's got that cover on it that looks like that. Let me take this off. And yeah, this is what not to get. Okay, if your battery box looks like this, either ask for a huge discount till you could find one of these, and these things are getting increasingly difficult to find, or just move on. So I'm just holding on to this one for parts because you could see somebody had some batteries in here too long and they got crusty and weird. All right, so anyway, those are the things that you want to be leery of. So condition means everything, especially in the battery box compartment. Okay, gang, next one up is this. This is my Royal D7000Y radio. Unlike the door, like the 1000s and 3000s, where this whole thing flips down, this guy is a little bit different. The top, well, let me put the handle down because I can't get this door to flip up otherwise. Ooh, look at that. And then you fold this part down, and then down here, let me turn the camera around a little bit. And this is the logs and charts door right down here. And this guy would then pull out and you can get the logs and charts that way. So there you go. There is my Royal D7000Y. And I like these radios an awful lot. They're a little better than I would say the 1000s and the 3000s because the features. There is one little, some people might find it annoying, but let me explain. Here on the lower right is this chart light. And then beneath that it says 11 band FM and AM. Now if you pulled out your charts here, okay, and you were sitting in a dark area, you could literally take this, flip that up, and then by going back to the dial light switch, which is down here, there's actually a light in there, and then if you were in the dark, you could put a document or something under here, and then you could read it right there. So you could read your logs and charts. So this lights up this light as well as the band switch light. Now, how cool is that? So I thought that was kind of a neat feature. All right. Now, basically like anything, and also there's FM on here, but there's also one other thing that's, well, in 1969, 1970, it was probably a big deal. And that is, I'm going to flip it over. See, here's your FM band in here. Let me get over here and get a better shot at it, and you can see as I'm flipping the thing, and you can see that a little bit better. Okay, so that's your FM band. Here's long wave. By the way, my 3000 had long wave on it. Not all of them did. Some did, some didn't. Broadcast, and then here's all your short wave bands right here. Okay. On the very, very top of that roll, it says here all the way to the left, VHF weather. So you can tune this and then get it to, and in my case, the local weather station out in New York City is 162.55. So if I had, I don't have batteries in this, but I could tune it to here, and I would just hear NOAA weather radio. And to this day, it's still active, so that's pretty cool. All right. So these are the little features. And also up here, I don't know if anybody actually uses this or not, but it has a time stamp here. So depending on what zone that you're in, like I'm in the I'm in this zone right here, zone 1. And that would be, I got to zip in here a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. And that's about as close as I can can get it. But this is my time zone right here since I live in New Jersey. So if you wanted to find that out, or if you were trying to convert it over to Zulu time or any of that stuff. Okay? So I bought this radio from a silent key probably about 7, 8 years ago. And I didn't even argue with him because he was a brilliant guy, and he actually made my Variac. So the very same guy that, if you've seen in my repair videos, my homemade Variac, this was his radio. And he was kind enough to sell it to me, and I bought it from him. And I gave him his number. I didn't even argue with him because I was so impressed with his homemade power supply. I didn't care. But like anything else, it's like you want to look at the radio over, make sure the condition is good. This radio does have some scratches on the top that were there when I got the radio. There's some scratching here on top of the handle. I don't know how well it's coming through or not. It may not be coming through, but there's some light scratches on top and in the back here. But like I said, I didn't care. But this radio can operate off of AC voltage. So let me close up the front of the radio, and I'll turn it around and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, here is the back of the radio. Let me put the handle down. I don't need to have the handle up front. Oh, by the way, the FM antenna and the other end, for the weather, that's it right there. I forgot to point that out. And this also has a little tab on here like the other one did. Let me get a good close shot of it so you can see it. Actually, I'll just leave it out like this so you can see it. There we go. So this is the same thing. There's no pointer on this. It's just the long end goes down. And it kind of sits flush into the tip of this radio. And then the antenna goes down. Okay. Now, getting back to the AC part of the radio. If you see over here, there's actually this pin sticking out. And you can slide this over. And then inside of here, there's 2 pins for an AC plug. Okay. To access that, you unscrew this very easy to move screw here. Okay. And then you have to, once you get this out, you pick up on it. You see that falls down? There's your battery compartment. But here, I'm going to spin this around so you can see it better. Here's where the cord is. So you could take this cord out, and there's a 2-pin plug that goes into this hole here and through this cover here where my finger is. Okay. Also on the back is this also had where you could, property of Radio Wild, address somewhere in the dumps in New Jersey, telephone number, state of insanity, but it also shows you all the transistor locations. So if you ever had to service the radio, I've never taken the radio apart. And you don't have to really worry about a battery box in here. I do have a battery in here, and that's just for the sole purpose of operating the dial light. But there's also other connections here for external antenna and trying to remember what all these are. Oh, these are all for external antennas. So there's a ground. There's a connection here that actually goes to the antenna. There's a little connection here. And then it's FM, shortwave, and broadcast and longwave. So you actually you could set this up for literally 3 different antennas if you wanted to. So, great radio, highly recommended, unless you want an early one. This radio, like I said, the only thing that's a little bit weird on it is it doesn't have an automatic gain control, and that's just for the purpose of being able to tune shortwave single sideband stations. So, all right, so that's pretty much, I think, covering the D1000 and the 7000Y. Well, the last radio on the Transistor T O list is the R7000, the R7000-1, and then the R7000-2. Now, I do not own one of these. So I'm going to just put up a picture so you can see what it looks like, and then I'll just talk away. And then at the end I'll explain why I don't own one. They were made from 1979 to 1981, and it was the first and only Zenith Trans-Oceanic that was not made in Chicago. These were made in Taiwan. All right, so this radio is almost, if you wanted to call it, it's almost like the ugly redheaded stepchild version of the Trans-Oceanics, and some people love them or some people don't like them. I'm on this side where I don't want to say that I don't like it, but I just know that I would prefer not to own it. And let me explain. Now before I get to the negative part of the radio, let me tell you the cool things the radio has. The radio has a tuning meter and a signal strength meter, which is not on any other Trans-Oceanic. Okay, it does have the dial light. I don't think it has the chart light like the 7000, but it's, the chart light's kind of a, either you love it, you hate it, or you'll use it and don't use it. I don't use it, but it's there, and to me, it's not a big deal. It has VHF, which is, it's really cool. This has VHF from 143.5 to, I think it's 174.5 megahertz. So that covers a lot of, well, it'll cover the 2-meter ham band, and some of the activity, like for, well, it'll pick up your weather and maybe some airport activity. It does have V8, it does have air band. I think it's 107.8 to 136.5, something like that. So you could pick up airplane traffic. And those are two things you won't find in any other Trans-Oceanic, whether it's tube or transistor. So that's the cool factor. Now here's the part that I'm not a fan of. There were 3 versions. The 7000, the R7000 and the 7000-1 had dial belt issues. Okay, so when you're tuning, it seemed to either slip or have a lot of backlash or whatever, and they're not, I don't want to say they're real hard to replace, but it's kind of a nuisance kind of service because there's a lot that has to come apart and be put back together to do that. The third version, the R7000-2, is the version that you want to get. From what now, since I don't have one, I'm just going by the information I've read on the internet and things that I've heard from other people. But it seemingly is the best version to get is the last one. That's why when I was doing all these videos with my new TV7D/U, I was so excited to get that tester, only because that, well, there's a lot of reasons why I wanted to get that tester. But one of the things that really pushed me over the edge to want to get it was the D/U. So it was the final version, and all the small little idiosyncrasies were taken care of on the first 3 versions. Well, the D7002 Trans-Oceanic, again, being the last version, they didn't have the dial belt issues. So that's kind of the one to get. Now, here's the really weird part about these radios. Now, because of the amount of features that are on them, they've become desirable. I've seen, I don't know where they came from. Someone had to pay a lot of money for this radio in late 70s, early 80s to begin with. And I say a lot, it was probably a couple $100. But I've seen a couple of times either on eBay or other events where they've had these things sitting on a table, and these were like almost brand new condition. I saw one that was in brand new condition that I think the asking price, and this was probably about 10 years ago, it was a long time ago, it was either $1,600 or $1,700 in the box, and I saw one in the original packaging in the box go for well north over $2,000. I forget what the final number is. So the reason why I don't want one or buy one, when you're looking at radios and you're looking at antique automobiles or you're looking at some other collectible kind of items, the market can get strange sometimes. Sometimes you could be sitting on what you think is a big pile of money, and then all of a sudden it just rips out from underneath of you. So it's my personal thoughts is I personally, as a collector, I don't need the risk spending a lot of money to have that. I would rather spend $1,000 for a calibrated TV7 than to spend, $1,000 on a radio that's, could possibly be a problem down the road, and or there's much lesser, there's much newer radios that, like for example, I have a Sony right here. Let me just get it out and show it to you. This is, I like this radio. It's a nice little radio. This is my SW7600 GR Sony. This could do pretty much everything that R7000 or 1 or 7002 can do for much less money. I bought this 6 months old for like $90. Okay, these were selling for I think $135, $140 new. Okay, I don't know what they go. I don't know what the market is on them right now. I have a very good, I have a PLA 80 Sangean radio. Excellent radio. It could do everything well beyond that a Zenith R7000 or 7001 or 7002 can do. It's a smaller, lighter package, rechargeable battery. It can do upper and lower sideband. It has filters on it. I think that's part of the reason why these didn't sell so well, the later versions. Plus, you got to take into mind that these were, a lot of, your Panasonics, your Sonys, a lot of other radio manufacturers were making radios that were built better and had more features on than this radio did. And I think that's probably what eventually killed the Transistor Trans-Oceanic altogether. So, would it be cool to have have one of each one? Yeah, it would be, but I don't need it. It's not important to me. But I don't want to say don't get one, but just I want you to know up front that there are issues on the first two. And if you find a R7000-2 and it's reasonably priced and everything, pretty much everything's going to work on it, unless it was a very abused radio, then go ahead and get it. So that's it. I hope you find that entertaining. Before you leave, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps me out. Right now, I haven't gotten. I've already started to get bills from my medical conditions, and I don't know how much that's going to be, but I'm certainly going to be on Franks and Beans for a while. Or you can come out to Kutztown and support me and look at my table. Help yourself and buy some stuff, radios and tubes. So anyway, if you've been a long time subscriber, I thank you for doing so, and if you're a new subscriber, I thank you as well. Please let me know what your comments are. I read all the comments. I'm just under, I think, 3,800 subscribers now, so I have time to read all of them. Not everybody's going to comment, but I enjoy reading the comments. Hope to see you in Kutztown, gang. Take care. Bye-bye.